Hello, friends. In today's study session, we are going to cover the topic joy from the book Joy and Healing, and written by Torkom Saraydarian. Joy and Healing is one of the first two books. The other book is Autobiography of Torkom, which has inspired me to read more about the teachings and which has actually changed my way of living and thinking. So this is a beautiful book, and the exercises and all the teachings shared in this book really help you in transforming your thought process. So let's start with the study. Uh, a brief glimpse of what all we will cover. We will cover just a small part of joy and healing. That is the first part. And also, we will cover an inspirational story of Torkom's father. It's really motivating how joy has been expressed during the tough time in Torkom's father's life, and also the experience of joy and how one can multiply joy as shared by Torkom when he saw butterfly. And we will also read the miracles that happen when person has joy, and then how joy is uh, shown in the personality of a person. And we will do one exercise for increasing joy in our life. So let's start. Due to my good karma, I met many people in my life who were joyful people, who radiated joy in their thinking, emotions, actions, and relationships. Since childhood, I have been attracted to joyful people. I have always had a deep desire to know what joy is, what joy can do, and what ways there are to develop joy and joyful. Since childhood, I have observed that joyful people are magnetic, successful, happy, creative, healthy, and honest. In school, I was always around those boys and girls who were joyful. I had a curious feeling that those who did not have joy were either unhealthy, aberrant, or dangerous, and this observation became more convincing as the years passed. I also observed that joyless students, teachers, and people in general were like burdens upon my shoulders. They always sapped my energy and enthusiasm. As the years passed, I tried to observe more things related to joy and to increase my information about joy. For example, I observed the effect of joy on the physical body, the emotions, and thinking. I saw that the absence of joy makes a person lazy and unwilling to strive and labor. The absence of joy makes a person arrogant, insensitive, uncooperative, stubborn, and mentally close, slow, cunning, or narrow. Most of the joyless people I have seen are sour people and those who use slander and malice. I continue my search on joy and read many books. Lately, I have read a few books in which joy was mentioned very superficially. After reading these books, I became convinced that the best way to know about joy is to find and observe those people who have joy. This is a wonderful tip. If you want to increase joy, connect to the people who have joy in their life. One of the most joyful people I met in my life was my father. He was a born optimist. He was healthy, good looking, energetic, and full of enthusiasm and striving. He was an incessant worker. My father passed through the darkest hours that anyone could pass through. All his relatives, 87 people, were butchered by the Turks. He was spared with my mother because he was a pharmacist. And the hospital in our town did not have a pharmacist. Years passed, and after the war and the genocide were over, my father moved our family to a big city where he thought life would be safer. He opened a very modern pharmacy there. In a few years' time, the pharmacy was known all over the city for its prompt and good service. One summer morning, two policemen came and informed my father that they had an order from the government to close the doors of the pharmacy for a week. According to his usual manner, my father invited them into his office, offered them tea and cake, and wanted to know the reason why. They said that another pharmacy, which belonged to an Armenian, had poisoned an officer. The pharmacist was under investigation, and until the investigation was over, all Armenian pharmacies would be closed. My father took the news very calmly. He waited to see how they put wax seals on the locks of his pharmacy. Then he gave a very strange smile and took a taxi to go home. His smile was a condensation of many thoughts, difficult to express in words. In his smile, there were foresight, insight, and prophecy. He knew what was going to happen, and he had already decided not to be crumbled in the hands of fate. His smile was clearly saying that no matter what happened, he would be above it. On the way home, he was very calm and he was smiling in serenity. Mother was surprised that we were home early. "What is the matter?" she asked. I was waiting for Daddy to condemn and curse the situation, but he smiled at Mother and said, "It's nothing serious. We have been instructed to take a 15-day leave until the government finishes some investigations about a pharmacy which is suspected of having prepared a poisonous prescription or something like that." "What action are we going to take?" she asked. "Just be patient and all will go the way it should." Then he took Mother and me to dinner on an island which was curved with pine trees. The fragrance of pine, the dinner, and the joyful environment brought cheer to our hearts. During the next few days, my father made an effort to reopen his pharmacy, but by trying to call the president of the government, Ataturk himself. Ataturk was an old friend of my father who used to visit our pharmacy. I had seen them conversing a few times before that. I remember one particular conversation they had several years earlier. As the conversation was going, Ataturk suddenly looked at my father and said, "Yervant, do you love your own nation, your country?" "Yes, sir," said my father. "I love my country, Armenia." Ataturk smiled a strange smile and said, "I am proud of you. Whoever loves his own can love the country in which he is living. You are a trustworthy and fearless man. I am proud of you." And he shook my father's hand and went to his car with his guards. Then he came back from the car and gave my father one of his pencils. My father had hoped that now Ataturk would clear all the doubts about the pharmacy in 1 second and he could reopen the pharmacy. But it was impossible to reach him. All my father's efforts were blocked. 6 months passed, and early one morning, a policeman came and gave my father the key to his pharmacy, a note from the government which said, "The case is closed. We wish you success." My father smiled. He knew their language well. He took a few dollars from his pocket and gave them to the waiting policeman. "Here, you must use these few dollars," he said. "Thank you for the key." And he smiled the same smile that he had smiled when they were sealing the doors of the pharmacy. The policeman disappeared without saying thank you. On the way to the pharmacy, my father said, "For me, all life seems like a play. It's not real." That is why sometimes loss or gain does not make a difference to the actors. Does it? I guess not. If we lose, we can make it again. If we make it again, we may lose it again. Well, let's see how the pharmacy did in my absence. We unlocked the door and father slowly and carefully opened it. The whole pharmacy was empty. Father took a long breath and began to laugh. I was scared. He continued laughing. Then he said, "I bet you that the safe will also be empty." The safe was empty. All our cash, jewelry, and gold were gone. Daddy looked at the key, threw it away, and said, "I knew exactly how things were going to be. Let's get out of here and go eat a good lunch." At the restaurant, people congratulated him on reopening the pharmacy. Thank you, he said. "We are going to start from scratch." And he began to laugh. "Daddy," I said, "why do you laugh?" "For the first time, I feel great, so great about this," he said. "Such tragedies cannot take away the joy of my heart. This is a great challenge for me to prove to my Lord that I can start my service again." At night, many doctors, psychiatrists, and other professional friends came to comfort him and encourage him. He served wine, made jokes, and made people laugh. And he said, "I am, in a sense, glad because a heavy load has been taken away from my shoulders. But I am sorry for those whom I was serving almost free." One of my father's habits was to give poor people their prescriptions free. Years later, once when we were talking about this incident, he said, "We saved energy, health, and money by not falling into depression, anger, hatred, and irritation, but by maintaining our joy, patience, and serenity." If we had lost these three diamonds, the future would have been lost for us. Then, with the same strange smile, he said, "Darkness also needs his share." Once, when I was 6 years old, I saw a butterfly while I was in a field with my father. It was so big and beautiful that I wanted to see it more closely. I think the butterfly knew my feelings because as I ran after it in great joy, it would alight on a certain branch or flower for a few seconds to give me a chance to see it more closely and then fly away. As I ran after it, the butterfly again gave me a chance to glow closer to it, but this time at a greater distance. After a while, I looked back and I was almost 2 miles away from my father, who I guessed was happy for my joy. Eventually, the butterfly stopped on a bush, opened its wings, and let me come very close to it and observe its beauty. On its wings, it had the colors of the rainbow running in stripes in the shape of a leaf. I was in extreme joy to such a degree that I started to run around and around the bush, dancing and singing a self made song. Butterfly, butterfly, I love you. I love your coat. I love your colors. Thank you for sharing your beauty with me. It was almost sunset when I came back to the tree under which my father was sitting. Did you like the butterfly? He asked. Instead of answering him, I began to dance and sing my self made song. Butterfly, butterfly, I love you. I love your coat. I love your colors. He embraced me and threw me on his back, and we walked a few miles in silence. Then he sang the words of my song with a new tone. Did you like the song? He asked. Yes. Do you see joy creates songs and beauty? It creates poems, and this is your first poem. At night in my sleep, I was still with the beautiful butterfly. The next morning, I went to my father's bed very early and said, do you know what? What? I did not touch the butterfly because I was afraid I would hurt it. He looked at me, and the pearl of a tear jumped out of his right eye and fell down over his nose. Then, pulling me into his bed, we slept together for a few hours. We shift to the other topic, that is the miracles of joy. First, joy is a state of being in which your consciousness is not conditioned by the environment or by the thoughts, emotions, and activities going on in your environment. The roar of life is heard, but it does not affect your consciousness. A moment of joy is a moment of an unconditioned state of consciousness. You have joy not because things and conditions are right or wrong, but because joy flows down from your core into your vehicles. Joy is a state of beingness in which no one and nothing can limit your love and sense of unity. The core of man is bliss. In striving to be your true self and coming closer to your true self, you release greater bliss. All that we search for in this world is bliss. As we detach from the problems of our threefold personality vehicles and withdraw into higher states of consciousness, we feel greater joy and greater bliss. The difference between bliss and joy is easy to find. Joy is bliss sensed and experienced in the higher emotional and mental planes. Bliss is experienced only in the spiritual triad and on higher planes. For example, beauty, goodness, righteousness, and freedom can evoke joy. Bliss is like a ray of light which is part of your true self. It pours out from yourself if the right conditions are created or if it is evoked by right conditions. When a person communicates with his soul, he feels the joy existing in the human heart. When he contacts his inner watch, he feels the joy of the great ones. When he contacts the spiritual triad, the joy of the leader of this planet pours into his heart. We are told that greater areas of joy exist in space, but they are far from our reach at present. The more you are your true self, the more joy you have. The more you are controlled by threefold personality vehicles and identified with the problems, the less joy and the more pain you have. Bliss is achieved through contemplation, samadhi, ecstasy, and withdrawal into higher levels of awareness. Also, there are many factors in you and in your environment which are ready to put out your flaming charcoal or pour cold water on your joy and encapsulate it in your aura. Hundreds of capsules are floating in your aura. These capsules contain a great amount of joy energy, which can be used for upliftment, healing, labor, and sacrificial service. You see a flower and feel joy, and you say, "It is really beautiful." And then you turn your face away to do something else. But if you look longer and see the form of the petals and the colors of the flower, if you sense its fragrance, you may have a chance at the same time to experience the effect of joy on you. There are two kinds of observation identified with personality, and observation identified with the flow of joy. We have so much joy in our natures, but we do not enjoy it because we are in a hurry. When you are in joy, hang on to taste it, inhale it, and try to make it flow into your aura and nerves by the power of your consciousness, as if you were guiding the flow of water into the trenches of your garden. I saw a man watching the sunset. He was all joy. He was in worship. He was the rays of the sun. He was the symphony of the forms of colors. I saw him stand motionless for another 30 minutes after the sun had disappeared. I saw one of my teachers watching a huge blooming tree with tears in his eyes. I saw a friend of mine in ecstasy during the recitation of a poem. 1 minute of joy can turn on all the lights in you and make you a more successful, beautiful, and attractive person even for many months. Some people eat like dogs. They do not chew their food at all, but swallow it very fast. If they would chew their food, they would have the joy of tasting the food. They would have a chance to assimilate the food and use it for their well being. This is the same for everything we want to enjoy. Take your time, do not hurry. The moment of joy is a sacred moment for transformation. The fourth point, joy is a state of beingness in which you attract forces of inspiration, abundance, harmony, and vitality. Joy creates a special chemistry in your aura and in your mental, astral, and etheric bodies, which become magnetic to the currents of higher inspirations coming from your soul, from your teachers, and from higher sources or centers of wisdom. A joyful person sees how books, money, land, and many other objects that he needs flow towards his direction, because the forces of abundance know that he will use them for the common good as a service for humanity. And abundance and joy are closely related to each other. A joyful person enjoys the things he has, but for a joyless person, all his possessions are like his prison. A joyful person never thinks, feels, speaks, or acts in a way that is not harmonious with the higher aspirations of humanity. Joy awakens in you a buried sense whose ego is the ability of your ears to recognize harmony in sound. Joy is the source of vitality and the main cause of strength of your immune system. Joy is a state of beingness in which you expand your consciousness toward higher and lower kingdoms and establish constructive and creative communications with them. Your consciousness cannot expand in a gloomy state of mind. Joy is a state of beingness in which your physical, emotional, and mental natures go through a process of integration and alignment. Joy is the communication fluid between the parts of the one engine. Through joy, your physical, emotional, and mental natures work as a unit. I strongly suggest to go through the details. You have to go through the book. Various appearances of joy. The person who has joy in his life or her life, that person has radiance in eyes and face, has sharp thinking, alertness, and sensitiveness, vitality, punctuality, health, lovingness, diligence, openness and freedom, cooperativeness. The energy of joy is regenerating, purifying, dispersing, expanding, linking, unfolding, harmonizing. Joy is the energy of transmutation, transformation, and transfiguration. Example, one day a young boy came to my office with tears in his eyes and said, "Please help me. It is very embarrassing to me and my family when the police catch me while I'm drunk or doped. I really want to give up alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs, but I have no willpower." I advised him to go to professional people for help, but he kept coming back to me again and again saying, "I know you can cure me." After observing him and thinking about him, I suddenly realized that he was trying to find joy in his life. He was thinking that drugs, marijuana, and alcohol could lead him to joy. Joy was his hidden motive, his hidden goal. Immediately, I called him and told him that I could help him if he came to see me 2 hours daily for 7 days. He agreed to come. What I did was very simple. I made him sit relaxed, go back in his imagination to his childhood, and start finding points or experiences of joy. I made him experience these joys again and again until all the events were clear, complete, and real in his consciousness. After doing the exercises for 10 days, the change in the boy began to appear. He was free from the control of his vices and radiated joy and peace. I have never since seen him using any drugs, marijuana, or alcohol. Once, when I asked him how he was doing, he answered, "I was looking for my joy in the wrong places, but now I found it. I do not need artificial things to make me happy. I am already happy." Let joy circulate in everything you touch. Before you read your lessons, feel joy. Before you open your door to go out in the morning, feel joy. Before you turn on the ignition of your car, feel joy. Do not start or end anything without first feeling joy. Joyful people are the carriers and distributors of the Spirit of God. People ask if one can bring joy with him from previous lives. In reality, there are no previous or future lives. There is only one life and one monad living one life. For the living one, there is no time and location. There is only one beam of light with many beads on it. Joy is the beam of light giving life and beauty to each bead. Let's practice one exercise on joy. And please practice this exercise at your own discretion. Or if you have some psychiatric issues, please consult your doctor before that. Let's start. Close your eyes and relax. Watch your breath as you inhale and exhale. Try to remember a joy that you experienced in the early part of your life. The experience when you were a child or a teenage. Go back and in your mind try to find a moment of joy as early as possible in your life. At this stage, just remember the experience. Try to remember where it occurred. When it occurred. And how it occurred. Remember the environment you were in when it occurred, what you were wearing, and how you looked. Try to remember those who were with you in that moment. This phase is very important. Go very slowly until everything is clear in your memory. And now try to re-experience the same joy as if it is happening at this very moment. Try to feel the joy throughout your whole nature. Do this at least 3 times. Feel the same joy as if it is happening now. Until your memory is clear and your experience of joy is real. Do not listen to your analytical mind. Do not listen to your other memories. Just enjoy the joy and feel it as a little child does. It's okay if you cry and the tears roll down. Continue experiencing your joy as you experienced in the past. Be the age you were when you experienced the joy. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. And there are many more joyful exercises given in the book, which you can practice. And if you want to practice meditations related to joy, you can contact TSG Foundation for meditation courses on joy and other topics. And this session is done with the permission from Creative Trust Copyright. You can also order this book, Joy and Healing, from USA directly. And if you are in India, we have distributor Jeykumar. You can order the book from there. And I repeat the name of the book as it displays, Joy and Healing, written by Torkom Saraydarian, and it is published by TSG Publishing Foundation. Hope this session has filled you with enthusiasm and energy of joy. And do order your book and read and infuse your entire self with joy. Have a wonderful time. Thank you for joining.